Okay, there are a few. Yeah. So desert locust is really a disaster in the sense that they can devour, like swarms can reach 100 million insects. They can devour the food supply of 100,000 people, think a small city, in a few hours. And the question is, can we detect their breeding grounds? When they have formed, it's too late to intervene. But when they are breeding, there is a chance for authorities to intervene and potentially prevent like food disaster or like food safety disasters. And so we've worked on this, and actually Ibrahim, who's from our Kigali team, has been leading this project with Arnaud and others. And really, like, this is amazing work because until now, there's a, like, detecting locust breeding grounds. Think you want to detect them 30 days in advance. You really had to go take measures like soil, like temperature, humidity measures, things that in certain cases you needed to actually move and get there. And the team tried something, you could say, crazy. What about we only use satellite data, high resolution multispectral imaging? This is actually, to give you an idea, this is an image from Sentinel, the Copernicus program of the European Space Agency. This is an image of Ivory Coast that Ibrahim gave me some months ago. And the idea is, like, could I use those high quality imaging capabilities plus some previously labeled data to predict locust breeding grounds over the whole continent in one go? Think about the scalability of this. This has never been done before. And we're actually super excited to say, and this is research we published a few months ago, that this actually worked. And if you look at the performance, we're talking about like accuracy around 83%, F1 score in 81%, ROC AUC 87%. This is actually the state-of-the-art model, and we're looking at ways to actually deploy it with all national governments and the FAO agency. But this is really like the magic of deep tech innovation powered by AI and its ability to address challenges. So this is really my message. We can do a lot. At InstaDeep, we're doing our best to try to do useful, important breakthroughs that benefit many, and we're particularly proud of this work. But this gives you an idea about the potential of deep tech innovation. But deep tech innovation, in a sense, is not enough. We need to do more. And if we want the continent to succeed, remember, we said there are two particularly important things. With intelligence and energy becoming abundant, AI becoming available, we said deep tech innovation. And the other one is really empowering young talents to learn first, but also work hard, build the projects of the future. And we need a lot more than that, than what we have right now. And so the key insight here, and it's kind of funny, like, I've been talking about agents for a long time, probably in the last 4 or 5 years. But like, everybody was talking about LLMs. And roughly in the last 2 months, I've started seeing people really talk about agents. And really, like, you need to think about the future as not LLMs, but about agents. Like, what's an agent at the end of the day? It's your digital colleague. You could be interacting with that colleague, chatting with that colleague on, Microsoft Teams or Slack or something else. And in the not so long future, it could also be your humanoid physical colleague. Yeah, think about R2D2 or C3PO, and you're talking to them. And so, really, like, this is happening, and this is going to have a profound impact. And why is this happening? Fundamentally, is because the performance of AI, if you think about like different skills, we started with image recognition, OCR, text recognition, and then language understanding, and now we're almost solving advanced reasoning. Math is being almost solved. We're silver medal at the IMO. This is the latest result from DeepMind. But what I'm saying is, this notion that you're going to have agents that are as smart as you, super helpful, helping you in your work, is really happening. And so, I really like this metric. It kind of sounds crazy, but gives you a sense of like what is at stake. In the next 3-4 years, you will have hundreds of millions of AI agents doing anything you want. But importantly, they will be very smart. So they will be outputting, communicating with you, telling you smart insights about what you do, helping you in your work or doing work for you, etc. And what scale are we talking about? We're talking about a number of tokens or a number of words every day, which is the equivalent of all the internet today. We're thinking hundreds of millions of agents outputting 30 trillion tokens a day. The entire internet, which took, what, 25 years to build, will be outputted by these models every day. This means something very profound. There's going to be really like two types of people. They're going to be the people who are part of this revolution and know how this works and how this can work for them. And there are going to be people who are left over. And this is why it's critical that we seize this opportunity for Africa, because if we teach young talents, I mean, this is an expert audience. This is deep learning Indaba. Most of you are passionate about AI research, you know a lot. But if you think about like people who are more like regular employees, if you teach them how to use powerful LLMs, if you explain to them the potential, you show them that they could create their own digital companies, they could become really like a citizen of the world, be participating to the economic growth, which will be crazy in the future, be part of that. I actually think it's possible. So, you know, at InstaDeep we love talking, but we love even better acting on it. And so this is actually a personal initiative of mine, and some InstaDeep colleagues also participated as volunteers. Well, we met this company called Go My Code. It's African entrepreneurs based in Tunisia, but it's the largest edtech on the continent. And what I really liked about their concept was it's actually young people teaching young people how to program, how to build sort of like a web page, how to design like software, etc., etc., how to do data science. And I felt this is really important. And so we started exchanging ideas with Yahya, the CEO of Go My Code. By the way, Go My Code is actually a sponsor of Indaba. You'll see their logo as well, which is cool. But it's really like I wanted to push the concept further. I was like, this is nice, but this is not necessarily for people who have already super high education, such as yourself, or people like in the best cities or the capitals of countries in Africa. This is really for the cities you don't hear about very often, where people have very little opportunities. This is where the digital divide exists, and this is where you can have the biggest impact. So what did we try? We tried this in Tatooine, which is the city I'm from, and you can see here the interest. Look at how packed the auditorium is. It's an auditorium like roughly half the size of this one, which is actually pretty big, and it was jam-packed. Everybody wanted to participate. And so what we did is we lowered the entry costs using like charity donations by me, Zora, my co-founder, and many others. But the idea was like, if we reduce the access to this education, I think actually you should not make it free. Because if you make it free, people don't work. You make it cheap enough that people have skin in the game, but that they're gonna be actually like, you know, be able to afford, but be able to have a skin in the game and get there. And this worked really, really well. And so today, I'm very pleased to tell you that we launched Project Tatooine, inspired by Tatooine, Star Wars planet. Really, what's the idea is to equip young people in Africa with the superpowers of AI. AI is the superpower of our time, is the force of our time, if you like Star Wars. And it's all about like make this accessible to many and let them build their projects. So this is the initiative I launched. This is not an InstaDeep initiative, it's a personal initiative of mine, plus Zora, my co-founder, many volunteers at InstaDeep, and many donors also outside InstaDeep. And the idea is we're gonna try, and we're gonna start with Tunisia, we're gonna try to educate 10,000 young people, particularly in underprivileged regions, not the capital city, not the wealthy areas, the underserved areas, and see, can we make them use LLMs, use Llama 3.1, build up the future, be a digital competitive company of one founder? Why not? You just need an internet connection. Everything is available. You know, like even compute on a smartphone, you could use some of the smallest models. And so you don't, in certain cases, you could even have LLMs without internet. But so this is an experiment. It's Project Tatooine. But I hope you appreciate the thinking behind it and why I think that this is the best sort of actions we can take. On one side, deep tech innovation, tackling the biggest challenges. On the other side, democratizing these tools in a way that make them like hopefully accessible to people. And so we launched this, we're starting in Tunisia, and hopefully we're going to grow from there to the whole continent with your help. Yeah. And so this kind of concludes what I wanted to say today, and I wanted to leave some time for questions. But really, like, I want to express how much this is an exceptional time. Llama 3.1, 405B, essentially GPT-4, fully accessible, fully open source, free of commercial rights, has become a reality over the last month and a half. This is the most extraordinary time to be alive. And importantly, we need to really collectively get into the age of abundance. Yeah? This has been my experience at InstaDeep. Like, I saw how much many people on the continent are still in this mentality of zero-sum game, negative-sum game. We all live through this, you know, in our daily life. And another world is actually possible. And it's possible if together we push these things. So at InstaDeep, we're committed to make AI be this driver of change through deep tech innovation, through initiatives, whether through the company or personal. But really, like, this is a call to action. These are not normal times. This is the most interesting time ever, and we can make a difference. And our mission at InstaDeep, which hasn't changed literally since the beginning of the company, is to accelerate the transition to an AI-first world that benefits everyone. And the everyone is very important. I've been trying to use every chance I have to talk to leaders in AI or in the world to really push that. If you want a good outcome in AI, everybody needs to be at the table, and Africa must be at the table. And so that's our mission, and we're continuing to expand our team, we're continuing to make this a reality, and we hope to have more impact. So don't hesitate to meet with the team. Our booth is here. I know many of you already came. Don't hesitate to apply. You have QR code here, etc. But we're going to really go for this and hopefully continue to make a difference. So thanks a lot, and let's have a Q&A. Yes, the QR code, sorry, yes. Yeah, QR code is cool. It's cool. It's the best example of combinatorial optimization made useful. Okay, question? Yes? I don't know if we have a mic. Yes, we do. Yeah.
Thanks. So I have a two-part question. You presented this really inspiring, interesting vision of kind of the medium to long term. In the short term, first part is, what do you feel is the biggest challenge or barrier or limitation that you're facing? And the second question is, what do you think the biggest challenge that the next InstaDeep is facing?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the fundamental challenge at the end of the day is us. If we are ambitious, despite all the difficulties of launching a project in Africa, it's actually possible to succeed. I can tell because when we launched InstaDeep, we were not sure this would turn out well. We thought it was important, so we went for it. But with the hindsight of experience and also seeing like many good projects emerging like this, Go My Code, there are many other good ones, I think it's possible. Now, real hurdles, I think the continent has really two hurdles. One is regulation. The most ridiculous thing I've seen, and this is true for, let's say, 99% of African countries, is the difficulty of hiring talented foreigners into the country. So we're very happy actually to have launched the team in Kigali, and Rwanda from that perspective I think is really doing a great job, and I hope many other African countries will follow. In Rwanda, if you are an African doing machine learning, doing tech, can justify that, and you come by plane, you're welcome to work in the country, and you will get your visa very quickly. We know because we actually tested, right? Ibrahim just got his visa. He was in the Lagos office, and now he's in the Kigali office. So this works. Sounds crazy, but for example, in Tunisia, we cannot have 10 foreigners from other InstaDeep offices come to work in Tunis. And so this is so backward. So that's the hurdle number one. And that's immediate hurdle. Medium long-term hurdle, I think when you look at like the allocation of GPUs in the world, you see that there are almost none in Africa as a percentage of the whole sort of amount of GPUs that exist. That is a challenge because ability to, like ultimately compute is going to be about really like sovereignty and national security. We need to have a lot more compute clusters in Africa. And I say this is medium long-term problem because it's not easy to address. The other one about like allowing talented foreigners to come and develop local teams and stuff is really an easy one. It's about regulation, so it can be changed overnight. And Rwanda has shown a very interesting way. So these are the main ones. It's not data. I've heard so many times people say, oh, data is an issue. I disagree with that. The world is full of data. With genome sequencing costing like less than $200, you could build an amazing data asset in Africa, for example. In other areas, you could go and digitalize the real world to train robots or drones or like to do delivery of services, health services. There's so much you can do. So the real world is full of data. Yes, internet data is getting mined, but you can get it very quickly. You download Llama 3.1. It's essentially a data compression of the whole internet. But so I don't think data is an issue. And most importantly, I don't think talent is an issue. We have many amazing talents on the continent, including in this room. So really these are the ones I hope we can act the most on, especially regulation. Yeah. Yes? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
so perhaps the mic is there, so after that is you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. My name is Justin Bakubolo. I am the founder of a startup and community which is called Bandi, and our aim is also to promote deep tech in Africa.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Basically, we build models for on-chip inference for languages in Togo, and that's what we do. So my first question is, what are the challenges today in terms of building a deep tech ecosystem in Africa? And especially in terms of regulation, I am not sure there is an existing frame for African startup to get a label as a deep tech. So that's my question. And how can we solve that?
Yeah, I think for me the deep tech label is really about publishing research and innovative technology at major peer-reviewed conferences or journals or something. So that would classify a company as deep tech versus like regular startup, which is more about like doing business model innovation and bringing technologies that exist into a new modus operandi. So ability to publish, I think that's the way you can get your startup distinguished as a real innovator. It's like people ask me this question many times at InstaDeep. You say you're deep tech, but can you prove it? I'm like, well, we are the first to have a paper published at NERIFS by a female African engineer in history. Last year we had 30 research papers. Now we have 2 Nature papers, Nature Journals papers approved. These are bars that are very high to pass. So that would qualify as deep tech. Yeah. And the other challenges, I think, one of the biggest challenges in deep tech in Africa is convincing very talented colleagues that they can be successful in Africa rather than to go to the US and go to Europe. And for that, I think we need a lot more successful startup stories. And I see the mentality starting to change. Yeah. So the opportunity is very big. If you build something for the continent that starts working, it's much bigger than going to work for a European company, for example. But it takes lots of examples to convince people. And you have to be good with the team, so you have to really be generous with stock options, etc., but it's possible. Yes?
Yeah, my name is Tulope from Nigeria, and thank you very much for that insight. For the passion you have for Tunisia with that project or the project sorry. Yeah, my question is this. During the course of your presentation, you did mention that technology and energy is not a problem in Africa. We have solar energy is a very good potential that we have, is a viable potential that we have. But what about the end user? You, as the initiator, you may have, that may not be an issue with you. But what about the end users? Putting in mind the story you gave around pushing a project to the underserved communities, where not many of them are, even the energy, some communities that have issues with energy, who will be the end users of some of these technologies?
Oh, yeah, it's a very good question. Who's the end user? Yeah.
The end user.
I think it's the world, actually. Because if you have an internet connection, you can be, and I'm starting to be really convinced by this, you could be a one-person company in the middle of nowhere if you have an internet connection and you're building up a service that's useful to others. It can work. There are examples of this. I give you an example. There's a dude called Levels.io on internet. I've been following him for maybe 10 years now. He's originally from Netherlands, but he has invented another way to do stuff. So he's literally moving from one country to another. He launches companies that are teams of one, just him plus technology, and think about LLMs. And so what I'm saying is the market can be the world. It can also be local, but it doesn't have to be local, because the problem, and this is what you're touching, when it's a local market, maybe there is no ability to pay, maybe there is not a monetizable opportunity. But if you have internet, the market can be the world, and there are examples.
Okay.
So I hope that answers part of your question.
Maybe.
Yeah.
My second question is this. It's like a personal experience back there in Nigeria. Early this year, there are some projects that was sponsored by the federal government for the secondary school students, and actually for the less privileged. And I saw the passion in some of these students they came. It was even Raspberry Pi that sponsored that project. But what I found out is that immediately it was a 3-day program. The first day was fantastic, the opening ceremony, with so many big dance at the opening ceremony. But the remaining 2 days, they were not there. So the STEM educators were left to them, and it was just the jamboree that was all over the news. Now, my question is this. After that event, I had an opportunity to meet with some of the participants of that at that event. But because they cannot afford even the basic computer in the school, so it was difficult for them to even use all those materials that were given to them by Raspberry Pi to start something on their own. But they have the passion. I took my time to even go to some of those schools with my personal computers, but I couldn't continue. And this is a problem. How do we track some of these initiatives sincerely without any sentiment in Africa?
Yeah, no, it's first there is the problem of ability to pay. So fundamentally, I think it's with soliciting the diaspora with charity donations, like the example I've shown here, to help fund the majority of the cost of studies. So it's the key thing at the end of the day is like, do not give fish to people, teach them how to catch the fish. And so what I'm spending some of my personal time on, is trying to figure out how to make sure these educational initiatives lead to an actual outcome. And what is an actual outcome is people actually being employed after the educational program, whether employed in a company or self-employed, literally a team of one. And here I want to touch a point which I think is super important. The world is really changing. yes, you will still have many big corporations, companies, and stuff, but we are at an age where somebody who's really, really good could actually be a team of one or a team of two and have agents catering to customer service, etc., etc. Of course, I'm talking digital services here, yeah? But this is actually becoming possible. And even in the way people think, we're starting to think really like founders have a lot of importance and big companies are inefficient. And if you look at like the best big companies, there are companies where the founders have very strong personality, are still super hands-on, like think Jensen at NVIDIA, for example, and others. But really like, if you are good and you have an internet connection, you could do things that were science fiction in the past because of the AI agents. You could literally have a team of developers, a team of customer service, a team sending cold emails to get new clients, and you're architecting this, and you could talk in this and check the quality and this stuff. So really, like, there's a whole universe of the possible, which I'm trying to think about, like, how this become a fact and a reality. But it's possible, and your question is a good one, but it's a very interesting time. Before, machine learning is, oh, I'm doing some regression, I'm all by myself, so what? Now it's super different. You have GPT-4 for free, or for very little, so very interesting times. Yeah.
Good evening. First of all, I would like to thank you for your presentation and also your efforts in advancing technology in Africa to help African communities. My name is Modlamin Jai. I'm from the Gambia, and actually I'm a university student, and also I work in a startup. We do actually talent development by teaching kids and youth about technology from the foundation towards diploma levels in data science and also.
Awesome.
Yeah. So just one question that I have. I'll first comment your statement that the best way we can convince our colleagues that we can make it in Africa instead of going outside is to actually have more successful startups within the African region. So my question is, what does it take for Project Tatooine to reach smaller edtech startups in the Western Hemisphere of Africa, especially in the Gambia?
I think really what it takes is what we just discussed, a proof that this works. At the end of the day, I'm a very pragmatic person. You could have all the great ideas and projects in the world. If it doesn't work in practice, it's going to lead to nothing. So right now, we tried in one city. It worked. Now we're going to try to scale to 20 cities, same country, see how this goes, and there's going to be a lot of learning involved. But if this works fine, yes, definitely I'm going to be looking for partners, and perhaps you in Gambia and others. But you see the idea. The idea is, like, if you think about developers, yeah, I actually think developers as a job will disappear in the next 3-4 years. But there's an important but. It might be replaced by software architect, or you find a name for the person like running and orchestrating this swarm of agents that are going to be working for that person. And that's going to be a very important job. It will still require understanding code. We were having some conversations with some of the people at Indaba here. I think no code, I don't believe in no code. I still think you need to understand code to be able to judge, fix problems, have some sort of like technical grasp on what's going on. But it's really a new job definition. And if you're thinking, and many people in Africa think, okay, I'm getting a developer job, I'm going to work for companies remote, and that's it. That job specifically will get disrupted by AI imminently, I think, in the next 2-3 years. And there are signs already that this is happening. But instead of being sort of like provider for others, you can be provider for your team, for your company, join like exciting startups on the continent like InstaDeep, or build your own company, but like be actually the user, the benefactor, the person that benefits from all this progress, rather than being contributing to a project in the US. You see what I mean? And so the limiting factor for me is efficiency. If we see that this works, at InstaDeep, we are committed to helping the continent grow. And personally, my co-founder and I, many volunteers at InstaDeep, we're committed to push these educational initiatives as well. So literally, like, I'm really sharing insights that I understood recently over the last 3 months. But I think this is the biggest opportunity we've ever had. So it's going to be interesting. And I encourage you to do more. You're on the right path here. Yeah. Cool. Perhaps 1 or 2 more questions? Yeah.
Hi, Karim. Hello. My name is Albert from AstraZeneca. I really love the slides. First of all, thank you very much for the great talk. I really love the part where you talked about drug development and all this. I do a lot of that work day to day. But my understanding of this is, so even if you can sequence, these antibodies to do some antigen, for some antigens and all these kind of things, you still need, very high-skilled biologists, computational biologists, someone who can go to the lab and actually do the sequencing. You can only, create a small number of sequences to test. If you look at the direction that's going, right, the big pharma companies are interested in very particular sequences to sequence. But we have in Africa, first of all, a huge population and a huge scope of problems to solve, like you say. What are some of the partners, or what kind of, the AI scientists are there and they can do a really good deal of that, but we need the actual testing in the labs and all that kind of thing. How does InstaDeep approach this, or what kind of future do you see to do that kind of work locally so that we can, deal with the problems that we're actually very interested in?
No, absolutely. I think the part about lab experimentation is critical, but I can give you several thoughts. I hope the industry is going towards more rationalization and sort of, you could have a physical lab somewhere in the world, you're sending instructions and it's testing like, for example, that's what you do for DNA. Yeah, you can create plasmids the way you want, and you could have like full experiments being run for you. But I'm also hopeful. I mentioned the example of the biocontainers, and obviously I cannot speak on behalf of BioNTech, but I'm really inspired by what BioNTech is doing for the continent, and having sort of like cutting-edge, state-of-the-art facilities such as the biocontainer, the first mRNA factory in Africa. That's also a sign of the direction where things are heading. So we still have limitations, but I think they can be overcome. And when it comes to data collection, I think there are huge opportunities in that sector in Africa. There have been some projects that were launched, some they didn't succeed necessarily, but I think the opportunity is very big on that front. So I'm hopeful that this is making progress, but healthcare is hard, so it's not software. So this is why, like, when I'm talking about like general opportunity, especially in underprivileged regions, I'm not telling you like go and do a biotech startup. I'm telling you do a digital project. It's easier, I think. Yes. Cool. I don't know if you have one more question, or should we wrap it up? Excellent. So I think we covered a lot. So I wanted to say thanks a lot for your interest in what we do. And really, like, I encourage you to spend time with the team. We are here, we have our booth. Many of our talents from multiple offices actually are here. So don't hesitate to spend time with us. And also, like, just come to brainstorm. There are plenty of cool ideas, and if there's something we can do, whether you're an entrepreneur, you have a project, or you're doing research, we'd be keen to hear more about it. So thanks a lot, and yeah, catch up soon.